Hey, well, this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. I thank you for tuning in. And those coming in for the first time, I thank you. And those who've been consistently supporting me, I thank you as well. Well, on today's episode is entitled From the Inauguration. Now, where is our destination? President Trump inauguration today, and today is Dr. King's birthday. We celebrate that. Dr. King's birthday was on January 15th, but we celebrated on the 20th. But we preserved this day to celebrate Dr. King. And Dr. King is looking down on us right now. But if you were to see what's going on today, the question is, will he be fully pleased? Will he be fully pleased? Was his dream demised? Only a little bit fulfilled, but still demised. And although we look into the continuation of what's going on right now, and where do we go? Where do we go from here? We're only going to see what this next 4 years is gonna do. We can just leave it in God's hands as we applaud and celebrate Dr. King, and we look up to Dr. King on what God has used him to as a purpose for civil rights, as a purpose for civil rights and for justice, and the vehicle for justice. I also got to look at his wife, Coretta Scott King, because it's not just, don't just treat it as a day off, as just a day off and go about your business. It's just a day that we remember the sacrifices that Dr. King made, as well as some other leaders, some other civil rights activists made, so we can celebrate, we can have certain rights. Don't just look at it as a day off. Don't just look at it, because 1983 was one of the first time Coretta Scott King was trying to make it a holiday. But in the year, it was the year 1986 when President Reagan signed and Dr. King's wife, Coretta Scott King, with the signing of President Reagan, that made it an official holiday in 1986. So you had a fight, a real fight. And big up to Dexter King, who made that song, the King Celebrate, King Celebrate, because that was that song released. You can check it out on YouTube, Dexter King Chorus. It's called That's Dr. King's Son. And that's Coretta Scott King and Dr. King's son, Dexter King, rest in peace. So, but it was a fight to make that a holiday official. So those don't just treat it like a day off, or just remember this day, because it was a fight. It didn't just happen overnight. Oh yes, and some of you believe that Donald Trump was the first president to have an inauguration on January 20th. Not true. In 1997, former President Bill Clinton, had inauguration during the second term as president as well in 1997. A lot of people don't know that, but I just researching, because I want to know if President Donald Trump was the first. No, it was actually 1997, Bill Clinton, 1997, January 20th. So, so a lot of people are saying that, oh no, I shouldn't have it on, but shouldn't have Dr. King's day the same as the inauguration day. But you can do many things to commemorate that the King's Day. And me, I like sharing content and putting up content to commemorate his day, because in many times, if you know the history and you followed the civil rights movement, and throughout history during the civil rights movement during Dr. King's legacy, you can see the sacrifices that he made. It's sad that in today's day and age that you don't see much on. You gotta search it on YouTube. Like, there's a program called Eyes on the Prize, and there's certain programs that and that the King with Paul Winfield and Cicely Tyson. That used to come out every year when I was younger, when I was a kid. And sad that they don't it's not really pushed so much. But find it and share it to my kids. Thank God for YouTube in that sense. As the inauguration was being held today, yes, where do we go from here? Questions. Questions. There's a lot of work that lay ahead of President Trump. And so there's still a lot of work to be done with high cost of living, better schools, homeless population. But one thing I can say, I like what he's doing with taxes. I like how he's giving tax breaks. If you're making over 500,000, you don't get a tax break, but families making under 500,000 get tax breaks. As I look at the school systems today, school systems could be better. Could be better. Could be better. It takes work, but it could be better. New York City school system, teachers high salary. Teachers make about 150K a year. And the school systems, what are the kids really learning? The school systems can be better. We got to work on that. Shouldn't be, because Dr. King talked about that. How certain school systems need to be improved. Conditions and systems need to be improved. If we look at the educational systems, what's considered the rough areas where black people is? So they got to call it rough schools. Schools that don't get the cream of the crop. They get the bottom of the barrel. And something's got to be done with that. There's got to be a change where they can value education just as much as how they can value education in low income areas. They can value education in low income areas. Not just the high income areas get better education, but our children need better treatment as far as education. Shouldn't be wilding out fights and carrying on and no protection for the kids. You cannot wait till things happen. You gotta do something now. You can't wait till bad things happen to react. And that's the situation. That's the problem. Yes, and the homeless is population in New York City, California, Wisconsin, it's off the roof. Some parts of Chicago, south side of Chicago, off the roof with homeless, especially in California. The homeless population is out of control, and it's sad to see Americans homeless because the shelters are overcrowded, and not only the shelters are overcrowded, but try to get anywhere, the cost of living is extremely high. The cost of living is tremendously high. That's why I named it the inauguration. Where do we go from here? For the inauguration, where do we go from here? And let's turn to a scripture, Proverbs 21:15. When justice is done, it is a joy to the righteous, but a terror to the evildoers. You know why? Because evildoers step on people's toes, hurt people to get to the cream of the crop. They squeeze you for their own gain, for their own gain. And right now we're in a situation that the poorer get poor, the richer get rich. And I like some of the policies President Trump is putting in place with the tax breaks. So if you work in your overtime and you're not getting taxed if you work overtime, it's for the hardworking man and woman. You're not getting taxed. Make under 500,000, you're not getting taxed. You're not getting tremendously taxed. We need a break. We need a breakthrough. We need a break in finances with this economy.
So here's Donald Trump's new tax plan in less than 60 seconds. First, he wants overtime wages to be exempt from taxes completely, which will be a massive tax break for millions of employees logging overtime hours. He also wants tips to be exempt from taxes, which means restaurant and hospitality workers will pay zero taxes on their tip income. He also wants Social Security income to be exempt from taxes, which costs some retirees an extra 50 to 85% in taxes when withdrawing their benefits. And for businesses, he wants to decrease the corporate tax rate again from 21 to 20%, and even as low as 15% for certain corporations who produce goods in the US. Plus, some of the tax cuts he implemented in 2017 are set to expire, and his plan is to make those tax cuts permanent. So here
Our destination, especially as black people too, as well, is to own. Because Dr. King spoke about that. But ownership, being independent and owning land, owning your own business. We don't have to, our destination is to own because you're in bondage when you don't own. You're ruled when you don't own. You're taken advantage of when you don't own. So our destination is to own. Because in this speech, he spoke about when when white folks tell black people to they just get out there, tighten up your bootstraps and work and do your thing. Yes, that's one thing. But when you deny people ownership, you deny you when they try to get a loan for open a business, it's like, no, you can't get it. Gotta have this, you gotta have that in place, you gotta have this in place. But you get a loan to go to college, they put you in debt. In debt, you be in bondage. What does the word of God says? The borrower is a slave to the lender. So you always be in debt. So our destination is to own and take back control. During Dr. King's last years, 1967, he was a big advocate of the Poor People's Campaign. When he went down to Mississippi and he see the poor conditions of the poor black people that live in shanty towns and certain homes, and he wanted to address that. He wanted to, and he addressed it. He addressed it with an organization called the Poor People's Campaign, and he put focused attention on that because poverty, when you have lack of resources, you're more prone to do crime. When you have lack of resources, you get desperate. When you have lack of resources, you cannot reach. You cannot reach your highest potential. So Dr. King focused on reaching to the poor people. It's a crying shame when you have people that serve this country, sacrifice their life, and they're homeless on the street. They're veterans that are homeless. Something needs to be done. I can understand that Yeah, they could have they have the reason why they're homeless because they have it's alcohol abuse, drug addiction, or mental issues. But still, our veterans need to be more respected, and to be respected by putting them in a warm place instead of laying on the streets in the cold, laying on the streets in the homeless in a in, in a condition of need. That shouldn't be. Homeless veterans should not be. Now the live word of the day is coming out of Amos chapter 5 verses 24. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like a ever flowing stream. Well, this is Zaccheus with another live word of the day. God bless and be safe out there. Peace and blessings. Until next time, be safe. God bless. Got more coming for you. If you like what I shared, smash that like button. Also, subscribe to my channel, Zaccheus Gospel. Always got more coming for you. God bless and be safe.